All right, welcome to the Sean Alcide Plus show. We have a special guest today, Kenneth L. Johnson, aka Ken Johnson. Ken, just to give you a little bit about background about Ken, he is a three-time Emmy winner for outstanding sound editing for a miniseries, movie, or a special for John Adams, Storm of the Century, and The Shining, and he's an overall 10-time Emmy nominee. So Ken has put in a lot of work, behind the soundboards and making sure that some of your favorite projects sound good. His company, Artistry and Sound, has worked on some of the biggest projects, films, TV shows, such as Kevin Hart's Laughed at My Pain, Little Kev, the cartoon series, Black Lightning, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the horror movie It, BMF on Stars, which we all love, and the latest Netflix hit, Forever. That's just naming a few amongst the many big projects Ken has worked on. So Ken, I gave you an intro, just so the people kind of get a background of the magnitude of the guests that I have on this show. That you are someone who's put in a lot of work into some of the projects we've watched and enjoyed all these years and may not have known. Before we get into the specific deets, how are you doing this morning? And where are you at with us in the world right now?
Hi, Sean. It's very nice to meet you. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm at my studio in Burbank, California.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I know you are a South Central LA native, and
Yeah.
reading your bio was very interesting because as someone who I used to do music, I share, the relative to, how you found your love music at a young age. And I know for you, you used music to stay away from the streets of South Central LA. How did that
Correct.
come about for you?
Well, man, I was, in South Central, lived in the projects, and you know, I just something just happened one day. I remembered vividly that I just it just came over me, and I had to make a decision, right? Whether or not to stay in it or to change my life. And in that singular day, I walked away from it because I knew that if I stayed in the life, that bad things were probably going to happen, and I wanted something different for my life.
Okay, so that's very, very empowering to hear. How old were you when that took place for you?
I was probably 19, I believe, around 19.
So around the age of 19, you decided the streets was in it, and you were
Right.
gonna pursue at least an interest in music. And from what I understand, you played in a band, you played the guitar, and you also went to school to learn sound engineering, and that's how you kind of find yourself into the sound industry before eventually moving your way up. What was it like performing, with different bands throughout South Central LA at that time?
And man, it was. I mean, it was some of the best times of my life, man. I mean, when I walked away from the street, right, I had to make a decision on what I wanted to do with my life, and so I was thinking real hard about it, and I always liked music, and I was like, I always wanted to be a singer, right, but I couldn't sing, right? I couldn't hold a tune, so I said, okay, if I can't sing, but I like music, what can I do? And so I decided I wanted to play guitar, and I picked up the bass guitar and taught myself how to play, and then I joined a few local bands, formed my couple of my own bands, um, gained some moderate success. We were able to at least travel, in different parts of the world and perform and stuff, and so that was really, really great. And yeah, I mean, it changed my life.
Got you. So that's again, as someone with a musical background, hearing your experience is kind of cool because I got into music at a very young age.
Mhm.
I started playing keys. I'm the youngest of five, and I grew up in Haiti at the time, early on in my life. So our parents couldn't afford to put all of us into musical class. So
Sure.
what would happen is my dad would hire a piano instructor to come to our house to give
Hmm.
us to give my older siblings, because I was only five, so they probably figured he's not ready to really learn an instrument. So,
Right.
but I was always like a visual learner, and I would like stalk their piano lessons. And when they
Hmm.
were done and got off of it, I would go on there and emulate what they were doing, and that's how I got picked up, a musical knowledge and the ability to play the keys.
Right.
So once I got older, I got into music ministry, had a band, and we would, tour, ministering in churches. I got into, hip hop a little bit and things like that.
Mhm.
So a lot of what you're saying resonates with me deeply. Um,
Right.
for me, I'm thinking about, you're 19 and you decide the streets is not going to be an avenue that is going to be beneficial for my future, right? So you decide you want to get into the music thing.
Correct.
It's two different things for me, right? It's one thing to know you want to go somewhere else in a different route. When
Hmm.
did you realize you can actually make it in the music industry? Like it was actually a possibility for you to get to the next level of, what would make sense for you.
I don't know, to be really honest with you, Sean. I don't know if there was a particular moment that it happened for me. I just knew that I had to grind, right,
Mm,
in order to get where I needed to go, right. And it wasn't easy, but it was fun,
mm,
right, because I was enjoying it, right. So it's important to you know when you pursue your passion, find a passion that you enjoy, right.
right.
So I think probably the moment it really sort of hit me was the first time I played in a nightclub. Because we were rehearsing in my mom's house. We had to rehearse, and then we had to finish before she came home
Right.
because she was at work. You
Right.
know, and so I think when I first got my first gig in a club was probably when I knew that we had something that I could pursue this, and so that's what we did. We had a little family band. That was the first band that I had. My brother played keyboards. My best friend played guitar. Two of my other friends were singers, and their sister was a singer. So it was kind of all intertwined. It was all family or friends.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, that's what's up. Like I kind of like that whole Jackson 5 kind of vibe. It's all in the family. We all talented. Let's put it together and do something, right?
Correct.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
have a good
absolutely.
time. Tell me about your transition from music to now working in sound and maybe an element of music, but just in a different way. Now
Hmm.
scoring films and shows and you
Right.
know putting that together. How did that transition go, and when did that happen for you?
Well, what happened was, as I said, I became a musician, and then we started going in the studio recording. Um, and when I got to the studio, I realized that I was really intrigued by the technical aspects of music as well.
Mm,
So at that point, I decided, okay, I want to learn what this engineer is doing. I want to be able to do that as well. So I went to
mhm,
school for recording engineering and production, right? And so that really got me interested in technology and how to create sounds with technology, right? And how to record. Back then, of
mhm.
course, it was 2 inch, 20. I mean, it was, yeah, 24 track, 2 inch tape, right? We didn't have digital
Right,
when I started, right? It came a few years later.
right.
Um, so I did that, and I did that for a number of years. I worked my way up to be a first engineer. But I was getting gigs that were like midnight. I started midnight and worked till the wee hours of the morning, and I really didn't like that particularly, especially since I had a newborn baby, and
Mm.
I just wanted to be home more, right, and have because I'll sleep all day, because I work. Right?
Night, right.
So time with my girlfriend at the time and my child was limited. So I said, I want to do something different. So I happen to have a brother and sister who were in the film and television industry. And I called them up and I said, is the same equipment that we use in music, do they use that in film and television? And they told me yes. And they introduced me to someone. First, I went to become what we call a production mixer. And
Mhm,
that's a person that's on set, right? That's
mhm.
what I originally wanted to be. But I realized soon that I didn't like working 16-hour days, on set. And so I called my sister, who was more in post, and she introduced me to a gentleman by the name of J.R. Delange, who was at a company called Taddeo. And he got me into a training situation. It took me like 3 years before they hired me. I would work my regular job because I'd got a job at that time to help with my family. And so I would come in at night and just sit with people and ask questions. And the weekends I would go in and I would I would train. So I did that diligently for like 3 years, and finally that door opened.
Wow. That is that's like it's a grind of, where, a lot of times you hear people talking about you gotta take the midnight shifts. Like the times that nobody wants is the
Right.
times like where your starting point is. And you just gotta get your foot in the door. Once you
Right.
get your foot in the door, opportunities will open up. For people who don't know, right? Because again, with someone who has been a recording artist, a lot of times people misunderstand the concept of before something actually makes it to our screens or to our, iPhones and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the process of mixing and mastering, like the
Mm-hmm.
difference of what it sounds like before it comes out and afterwards.
Right.
When you are doing a film, what is
Mm-hmm.
the process for you before everything makes it to us? Like, how are you staying creative and motivated? Because I like the way that I think about it is you put the finishing touches on everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before it
Right.
hits Netflix or before it hits theaters and things like that. How
Mm-hmm.
are you in the midst of the directing, the filming process? What is
Right.
your role in that? Do you have any creative input on what you may suggest here and there, or like what is going on in your process?
Right. So, well, at this point in my career, I am given creative input. So my process is usually when I get assigned to a project, the first thing I want to do is I want to get a copy of the script.
Mm,
So I get a copy of the script, I read the script, and then I kind of think about, how I want that particular world to sound, and what I want to do, right, based on my reading the script.
right.
So the next thing that happens for me is that they'll give me a cut of the movie, what we call a cut of the movie. So a locked cut, which means that they finished editing, right? And they give it to me. I watch it first, and then I'll sit down with them and we'll do what's called a spotting session. So
Mm,
I'll sit with the producers and sometimes the director, and we'll talk through it. We'll watch it and we'll talk through it, right? And I'll get any ideas they may have. I'll present any ideas that may come to mind for myself.
hmm
Uh, and once we do that, I end up with a bunch of notes, and then I get my team together and I sit down with them. I watch it again with them. I assign different people to different tasks. Like,
hmm
I'll have a guy who's doing dialogue, right? I'll have
hmm
a guy who's sound effects. Depending on the show, I might have a sound designer, which can be
mm,
separate from a sound effects editor. I have a Foley guy who does like the footsteps and touching of items and stuff like that.
right.
And then I'll watch it as well another time to see what challenges I have with the production audio. Because when they give it to me, that's basically what they're giving me. They're giving me picture and just the production audio.
Right.
There are no sound effects. If it's a gun battle, there's no guns. If it's a
Wow.
car race, there's no car. If it's motorcycles, there's no motorcycles. Spaceship, there's no spaceship. So everything that you hear that is not dialogue for the most part, right? We
Wow.
recreate that whole world, right? Everything that you hear, even from a door opening, right?
Right.
And door
That's
closing.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, all of those things we recreate, right? Because the idea when you're on set is to capture the voice,
Right.
right? You don't really want to capture any other sounds. So the microphones that you use are very directional, right? And they're meant to just sort of focus in on the mouth,
Wow.
and not, reject everything that's beyond that, right? And so everything is created. So once my team go through and they do their thing, they'll then give it to me. Usually, my team's really good now, so I don't have to do it as much because they know, my sensitivities and what I like, and
hmm
and they are very talented as well, and so I trust them, and so I don't necessarily always have to look over their material.
Mm,
I can usually just take it and go with it. So once I have the material, then I'm ready to mix, right? So I sit down. It's usually probably a few hundred tracks on minimum, right?
mm,
And I usually start my process with the dialogue because in what we do, dialogue is actually king, right? For the most part, in a usually in a drama, right? If it's a sci-fi movie or something like that, for Star Wars, which I didn't work on it, but if it was a Star Wars show like there are a lot of sound effects that sort of take precedent
Right.
over some of the dialogue sometimes. But for us, mostly it's dialogue, and so I'll go through the dialogue, I'll clean that up, I'll do any EQ, leveling, and I'll also have decided at that point if there are any issues in the dialogue track. For instance, if an airplane goes over and you don't want that in, say I'm doing a Western,
Hmm.
right? And they're shooting it, but an airplane happens to go over. Now we know that there's no airplane
Right.
in
Right.
the theaters, right? So we have to do what's called ADR, which is automated dialogue replacement. So I'll
Mm.
bring that actor in, and we'll re-record their lines, right?
Mm.
Or sometimes we'll re-record lines if the producer or the director feels that they want a different performance from the
Okay.
actor, right? So we'll bring those in. So once I have all of that together, the dialogue and this ADR, automated dialogue replacement, I'll start there. I'll get that sounding really great. My next process is usually do backgrounds, which, let's say that we're outside, right? In an urban environment, right? So we'd
Hmm.
probably, hear like what we call a field, like a traffic field, like a wash, right? We'd hear the traffic from like a few blocks away. So
Right.
we start there. We'd probably more than likely have some sort of birds. If there are people on the block or on the street, we put those voices in. If there's a dog barking, we do that. If there's a car that go by, we'll cut that car. If a bus pulls up to a bus stop, we
Right.
put that in. So all of those sounds. So those are called background sounds. So we create all of that, and then any hard effects, we do those as well. Which hard effects can be anything from like a door opening. Usually the cars themselves, the principal cars, like if you were in the movie, if you were the star and you got in your car and you started it up and you peeled out, so we'll create all of that, and that's usually in sound effects, right? So we have dialogue, we have backgrounds, we have sound effects, and then we go to Foley, which is when people are walking,
Right.
whether they're walking on concrete or wood or whatever. And then if they pick up a cell phone, that's also considered Foley. So all of those items I have at my disposal. Then the composer will give me the score, right? Which is score is typically more orchestral.
Right. Right.
And then there's also a music editor on the show, and they'll give me what we call source music, which is songs, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so it'll be my job to take all of these things that I now have, the stuff that we've created from my team, the music from the composer, the music from the music editor, and then I'll mix all those things, right? So I'm sitting there, usually with my partner. I'm doing dialogue and music typically, and this is if we're doing a large project. If we're
Right.
doing a small project, I'll do it all. But
Right.
if I have a larger project, like for instance a Forever project, I'll tend to mix music and dialogue. I'll let him deal with everything else, which would be Foley, effects, backgrounds, and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
And so we're sitting there in tandem and we're mixing and we're watching on a big screen, and we are trying to immerse ourselves in that environment and recreate what it would really feel like if we were there,
Right.
right? And because now we're doing what we call surround and immersive mixing, you hear things all around you, right? Not
Mhm.
just in front, not just in stereo,
Right.
but in 5.1, 7.1, and now we have Atmos, which are speakers on the ceiling. So, for instance, if a plane flies over, we can actually hear the plane above us, right? As opposed to being in front on the
Yeah.
screen, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and I know it's a long-winded answer, but as
No.
that encapsulate kind of what we do.
No, that was fantastic because again, for me, I'm just consuming the product, and I have no idea that there's so much steps that go before it even gets to you, and like you put the
Mhm.
final touches on it. With that said, how like what would be like if you had to give me a timeline? Because it sounds like a lot of work. If you had to give me a timeline of how long it might take from the moment the edit gets to you to the moment you finish all of that stuff that you just described with the sound. What is that typical timeline for you?
Okay, well, it kind of depends on whether it's a feature or it's a television book, the series, right?
Right,
And let's go with the fact that maybe it's a TV series.
right.
So I probably have 3 to 4 weeks of what we call editorial, right?
Hmm.
And that's, going through the dialogue, that is filling all the sound effects, all adding all the background, doing the ADR, all the things that I talked about. So I've got probably 3, 4 weeks to get that done,
Okay,
right? Once it's done, we'll go to mix, right? Mix typically is about 5 days,
got it.
right, on a TV show, right? And so it's actually mixing 4 days, and the fifth day is what we call playback. And that day is when I have the executives come in
Hmm.
and I present what we've done,
Right.
right? And my goal is to really get as few notes as possible, meaning that I want to have it at a point where they really like it and enjoy what they are hearing and seeing, right? But there typically are notes because no one will ever let you go without giving a note, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Because they don't feel like they're doing their
Doing their
job if
job. Yeah.
they don't contribute, right?
Right.
It could be great, but they're gonna like, well, could you turn it down just a little bit,
Right.
right? And so we do the playback, we do whatever notes they have, and then after that, we do what's called deliverables. So we have to stem it out, right, to like all these different elements that I was telling you, background effects, Foley,
Hmm.
all that stuff. There's a master track, like a 5/1 track or whatever it is that we're doing, but there's also individual tracks of dialogue, of Foley, of sound effects. So we have to create all of that for their final package, and then we deliver.
That's incredible. Is it? I know you work on gaming as well. Is the process pretty much similar, and like as far as like doing sound engineering for games, or is it a little bit, nuanced in that
Well,
department?
the game work we've done like cinematics, and so we don't do the mixing of that stuff.
Okay,
We basically will just do the sound design.
got
So
you.
they would give us a section of a game, which looks almost like an animated, show or something, right?
Right.
And then we just cut sound effects in that. We give it back to them. They put it in the game engine and do their thing. So we're just creating sounds at that point. We're not doing the mixing or
Okay,
anything like
got you. All right. Well, that leads me to my next point. For my next
that.
question, I should say, when you have maneuvered through the industry, I
Mhm.
understand you've dealt with some overt racism, some politics. We know politics is in everything where someone might
Yeah,
be more skilled, more talented, but somebody else might know someone else. It's all about who
right.
you know. How did you maneuver that to still, keep your head on a swivel so you can get to the point where you're at now?
Right. Well, to be totally honest with you, yeah, there is racism. Some of it's overt and some of it is not. Um, but it exists. Um, because you got to understand, like a lot of these jobs pay good money, right? Uh, and the people who are in power of these companies, a lot of times hire people that are not like me, not
Hmm.
like you, and those people tend to want to bring in people who are like them, right? It's just what it is,
Hmm.
right? Now, for me, I just tried to align myself with people, no matter whether they were like me or not like me, people who just really appreciated the talent, right? And just sort of didn't focus on the differences, right?
Hmm.
That there's a few people that were instrumental in helping me move in my career. But to be really honest with you, I came in, I wanted to be a mixer. That was my goal originally. And I worked for some of the biggest companies, Universal, Warner Brothers,
Hmm.
Sony, there was Tadeo, Sound Deluxe, the biggest sound places. But I was never able to ascend to the, level that I wanted to, right? For whatever reason, right? I remember vividly, I was in the lunchroom and I was talking to a Caucasian gentleman, a really nice guy. And I was like, yeah, man, I want to be a mixer, right? And he told me straight up, he says, you'll never be a mixer here, right? And I was like, and I looked at him kind of like, what?
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I said, why? Why do you say that? And he said to me, he said, because you don't fit the mold. You don't look like them, the people who have those jobs. You don't dress like them, right? You don't have the Dockers on, and you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I didn't really believe it. It was hard for me to accept that.
Right.
I was like, no, I'm going to do it, right? But at that particular company, it never happened. Right? I never got that opportunity. And so as a result, for me personally, and I'll move forward a few years, in order for me to be able to do what I really wanted to do, which was mix and supervise, I needed to do something different. So that's when I started my own company, right? So I was in my garage. I was doing independent projects, low budget.
Right.
Just honing my skills, though, right?
Yeah.
Honing my skills, making connections with people who would eventually, move up the ladder. And so I did that for, I think I started in 2005 with that. And I got my first break in 2009. Right? So I just felt that the only way for me to where I wanted to go was to create my own path, right? And it's difficult, it's difficult. I'm not gonna lie, but I did it,
Right.
And I consider myself fairly successful in it. But back to the racism thing. Yes, it exists, and not just with the Caucasian or different races, but even amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Because to me, like, I remember one day I said to a gentleman, it was two of us there, two African Americans, and I said to him, I said, look, why don't we help each other? If I get a project, I'll try and get you on it.
Right.
Right. If you get one, you try to get me on it. Now, we both know we're talented, so it isn't a matter of I'm getting you on it just because.
Right.
Only because of that. Right. But it's just because you're talented. And by the way, we happen to be alike and we don't get the same opportunities. And he looked at me and he said, well, why would I do that? Right. And it almost floored me. Yeah, just straight like that. And it almost floored me because I didn't understand it. But I came to realize later that a lot of times, especially, I can speak for the African American male, we get in a situation and we don't want more than one rooster in the hen house, per se.
We're competing with each other instead of working together. Yeah.
Right. Because if I let you in, right,
you might like you more than me.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, right?
Wow.
And so I ran across some of that too, in my career. It's sad, but it's real.
It's real. You and I have a lot of common because I went to school. My undergrad is in journalism. I always wanted to be a journalist and tell stories. So that's what my undergrad is in. And at that time, this is before podcasting. This is 2005. This is where you actually had to go and learn how to write like a journalist, learn how to publish news. So I was doing all the, internships at the news stations. I was writing all the blogs and all this other stuff. But it was hard to break through because, like, a lot of me weren't on TV. Like, Stuart Scott was my OG that I didn't know, but like he was the one that made me feel like black men can be on television and be cool and be hip with the way that he talked on SportsCenter, the way that he was very authentic. And that's what made me want to go into journalism. But it became really hard to just land at least a major situation at like one of the Disney, like ESPNs or Fox or things like that.
Right.
And that's when I decided I'm tired of this. And I created my own publication in 2017. And it was kind of like you, a lot of grassroots work. I was covering high school sports. I was doing things that I didn't even have interest in because I wanted to get my feet wet and I wanted
Same.
people to see that I was serious. I was covering swim meets. I'd never seen a swim meet in person. I had never been interested in covering a swim meet, but swim
Right.
meets are 6 hours long. And for me to get interviews with the swimmers and the coaches, I had to wait all 6 hours because they wouldn't talk in between because it's literally ongoing. So
Mm-hmm.
until that happened, until I started getting a breakthrough into like the college sports, covering men's and women's college basketball in Connecticut, which is a huge deal here where we are, and then
Right.
professional sports, some soccer, some baseball, some football, WNBA, which is very big in Connecticut. So a lot of that, like what you say, resonate with me because I know like what it's like to people to tell you that might not be an option for you. You're like, well, I'm creative enough, I'm talented enough, and I got the grind enough in me that I can start something and make it flourish. So
Right.
I resonate with a lot of what you said, and I commend you for not letting someone tell you that ain't gonna happen here. Stop you
Right.
from saying, "Well, it could happen elsewhere. If not for
Right.
someone else, for my
It
own."
matters somewhere else. Right.
It all works out. Does any one project get you more excited than the next, or is it all business as usual?
No, I can say that one of the most enjoyable projects that I did from a standpoint of being in the room with the other creatives was probably one of the last projects, which was the Forever project that I did.
That
Right?
is a smash, by the way. Everyone
Yeah,
is talking about season two
yeah,
coming.
yeah. So what I loved about that was, well, first of all, Mara Brocker Keel is the executive one, and Regina King are executive producers. Regina wasn't here with us, but Mara came, and I had worked with Mara before because I supervised Black Lightning,
Hmm.
all 4 seasons of that. I was sound supervisor on that show, so we had a relationship already. And so when I started the show, I mean, it just felt like everybody respected each other. Everybody was allowed to contribute creatively,
Mm,
and it just the vibe, right, in the room just was special,
right.
right? And I've never really kind of experienced that. A lot of times, there's a lot of egos in rooms, you
Mhm.
know, and you know, people tend to hire me now because not just because I know how to push a fader up and down, but because
Right.
I have a lot of experience and I have a lot of creativity, and I bring something to the table from a creative standpoint.
Right.
Um, and so they allowed me to do things that I wanted to try without any resistance. Oh, okay? You think that's a good idea? Let's try it.
Mhm.
Right? Let's see how it goes. And most of the time, they said, "Yeah, that was a great idea."
Right.
And so certainly when that happens, you feel empowered, right?
That's what's up.
Yeah, yeah, and it was just beautiful, man. It was a beautiful experience. There, like I said, I mean, usually I'm in a room, and especially I will tell you on some of the lower budget things, man. People act like sometimes they have something to prove, and if they want to hammer on you, then they're in control,
Yeah.
right? It shouldn't be that way. It should be a collaborative effort, right?
Mm.
Everybody should be in the room contributing creatively to trying to make the best product that they can.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask because I know the audience is going to be like, I can't believe he talked about Forever and you didn't ask this. Do you have a tentative potential release date for season two, or is that still
No,
in the process? Okay.
no, it's still in the process. I was actually just talking to um, one of the ladies that well, she's sort of my boss.
Hmm.
I directly report to her.
Hmm.
Um, she's in Italy right now, but she said as soon as she gets back, she'll try and see if there's any news. But we don't know. We just know it's coming, and we know it's going to be in 2026. Yeah,
Got you.
we're anxiously looking forward to it.
Got you. Before we move on, and I don't want to hold you too much longer. Is there a director that you haven't worked with that you would like to work with? Producer or director on a
Yeah,
film?
Ryan Coogler.
Yeah, we got to get. That would be fire. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'd love to work with Ryan Coogler, man. I think he's really creative. Yeah.
Coogler, if you're listening to this,
Jordan Peele, I can go ahead too.
Jordan Peele, absolutely,
You
absolutely.
know, yeah,
Spike, would Spike interest you at all? Not as much as the other two.
not as much as the others, right?
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
I just saw highest to lowest, so no, not as much as the others.
So I'm glad you brought that up because one of my good buddies who is like a film enthusiast that like he watches film differently from most of us do. He is looking for the score. He's listening to the effects, all the things that most consumers don't really care about. And he
Mhm.
was like, the film was poorly scored. Now, people don't. People are like, "What are you talking about, dog? Like, did you like Denzel's acting, or did you like this, or did you like that?" But he mentioned that, and I haven't seen the movie. I know it's on Apple. I plan to watch it, but it was just
Mhm.
very interesting that for him, the scoring and like the way that everything sounded didn't really stick to him. Which is like now that I'm learning how much goes into that, it's kind of like
Right.
it's a little eye opening that they didn't intentionally make sure that they nailed that part of the film.
Right. Well, but you have to also think about the fact that, man, I mean, this everything that we do is subjective,
True.
right? It's subjective. Some people are going to love it.
Yeah.
Some people are not,
But
and
not
that's with everything, right?
right.
No matter what you do,
It's true.
right? And so, yeah, that's just kind of how I look at it, man. Everybody's a critic,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and who's to say, it's only based on what do you like.
True.
Right? Do you like it? Don't you like it?
Right.
Me personally, yeah. Did I think the score? I'm not going to say that in case Spike sees it. No, no, but I think the score could have been. Would I have done the score differently?
Mhm.
Then I would say yes. Would I would have done it differently. But again, that's his choice, and that's his vision. So,
Got you. I understand you're a big sports fan. Are
well,
you
I'm big, man. I don't really watch sports, to be honest with you,
okay?
like I used to.
Okay.
No, I am kind of in this WNBA thing now. I kind of got hooked
Yes.
on that,
Yes.
right? So I was watching last night. Of course, my Aces won, so I was happy
Oh,
about
you're an
that.
Aces fan. You're not going with the Sparks, the hometown team.
No, my sister is a big Sparks fan.
Okay.
She actually has seats there, floor seats to the Sparks, so I go with her sometimes. And that's why I go, because she has season tickets. But I mean, I like the Sparks, but I am a diehard Las
Asia
Vegas
Wilson.
fan. Asia Wilson is the good for real.
Shout out to Asia Wilson. I love everything about her. I've covered her first championship. I actually got a chance to cover her when she came because she came here to Connecticut to rip out our hearts and win the chip at the Mohegan Sun Arena. But she's
Right.
I mean, you can't say there's nothing negative you can say about Asia Wilson. She is dominant. She's great on and off the court. She's
Mm-hmm.
special with kids. I bought her shoes, the A1s. I bought a pair of A1s because I want to
Yes,
support this black woman because she's amazing. So,
right.
shout outs
Do
to Asia Wilson.
they make them for men?
One more time.
They make A1s for men? I don't have. I don't know.
They
Are
yeah.
they unisex shoes?
Right, yeah. But they do have like men sizes specifically, and I was able to get one. So it just you got to buy a little bigger because they run a little tight. So that when I bought mine, I had to send it back. Like I need a size up because
Right.
it was way too tight.
Everywhere 11, you better get 12.
Exactly, exactly. So you're not rocking with the Lakers as much because I got my Kobe hat, I got my 24-8 hat. I'm a
Yeah.
huge Laker fan. Kobe
Yeah,
Bryant to the day.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was a big Kobe fan, and I was a big Michael fan,
Okay,
and I do like LeBron.
I was gonna say I'm scared to ask.
I like LeBron. I think, and he's done some great things, but I would choose Kobe over LeBron. I mean, no, I would choose Michael first,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then I would choose LeBron, and then I would go with Kobe.
Can you explain why LeBron over Kobe? Because I'm very intrigued now that you say that particularly.
I just,
You would take LeBron second.
I don't know. It feels to me that it's tough, right? But I think that LeBron is just he's a more imposing, dominating kind of player, right? And what is he now? Is he? I don't even know because I'm not following him like that. Is he playing again?
Yeah, he's running
He's,
it back for
he's
another
like
year with the Lakers.
41. He must be like 41 or
He'll be
something.
41 in December. Yeah.
That's amazing in itself,
It
right?
is. It is incredible. You're
I mean,
23. You're
yeah,
23. Yeah.
to be there that long, so you got to give him credit for that. And he's accomplished some great things, and won a bunch of championships and stuff. So but Kobe is Kobe,
Right.
and unfortunately he died too young.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very sad. Fun fact, I named my son after Kobe the day that I found out he passed. I had never had any intention of naming my son after anybody. But when he passed, just the way that I felt, I'm like, man, if I have a son, I want to honor
Yeah.
Dean. So I named my son Kobe.
So you don't have to change his name. Yeah, but now you know you're gonna be Kobe, right? You didn't
Right,
do
right, right, right.
that.
Oh my
So he
goodness.
was, how old's your son?
He's 4. He'll be
Oh,
5 in December. Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Um, the state of West Coast rap, are you tapped in at all right now, or are you just kind of like staying out the scene and things like that?
I'm not really tapped in like that. I mean, I do, listen to, I listen to a lot of things, not really just West Coast stuff. I
Right.
just listen to a lot of stuff, but I'm, I'm okay with Kendrick, I'm more of a J. Cole kind of guy,
Mm,
you know.
I love Cole.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
Cole. How you feel about Drizzy in that whole little battle? No comment, or is that?
Well, I mean, no comment on the battle, but I don't know what's going on with them. But I will say that Drake is a good artist. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's got some hits, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, he's not a street dude, but
Right, 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 right,
he's more pop like. But
right.
I don't
He's
know.
a good
I don't really think we should be beefing like that personally.
Yeah.
I think we should try to lift each other up. We got enough stuff going on.
Yeah, and that's why J. Cole, who you mentioned, that's why he tapped out of it because initially he was in the crossfire of that, and he
Yeah,
initially said something on a song, and then he was like, "Nah,
yeah,
that's my brother. I don't,
yeah.
whatever you got it, man. I don't want beef with my brother. Someone who they came up at the same time in the game. Like him,
Yeah,
Drake, and Cole came around the same era, and they called
right,
themselves the Big Three. So I do
right.
agree. I wish everyone could get along, but that was a very personal, nasty battle. It feels like obviously Kendrick seems like
Yeah,
he has gotten the upper hand, and he's
yeah. He seems like the winner.
right, right. I think we could say that. I
Yeah,
think we could say that.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay. Any upcoming projects that you are working on or looking forward to that the people should know? And how do people
Well,
like support sound engineers? Is it just watch the film and like vote it in for any award kind of things? How do we support you personally?
if you know anybody that's making a film or TV show,
Okay, fair,
mention me.
fair. That's
As
fair.
I support.
That's fair.
Bring some work this way.
That's fair.
Yeah. But in terms of, I'm certainly looking forward to the season 2 of Little Kev. That was really fun.
Yes,
Did you see it?
I did. I love
Yeah.
Little Cat. Very fun.
Yeah. So that was fun. And animation is a different kind of animal. It's actually in a way more creative because
Hmm.
it's a truly blank page, right?
Right.
It's truly a blank page. You have a lot of leeway. Like I did Night at the Museum,
I saw
the
that. Yeah.
animated movie for
Yeah.
Disney, right?
Yes.
And that from animation standpoint, that was probably I had more fun on that one than
Hmm.
any other animated show because of the creativity. Because you had all these things, statues and stuff coming alive at night,
Yeah.
and so you got to be real creative with sound design and stuff. So and you had the aliens, So those types of shows are highly creative, and I really like that. And because there's no specific sound for certain things, then you get to use your imagination, right,
Right.
to say what would I want it to sound like,
Hmm.
right, if it were real.
Mm,
right? And so, and what do I need to do to make it sound that way?
mm,
What elements do I have to procure or create
right.
in order to create those sounds, right?
Okay. Do you ever think about what life or what your career would have been like had you stayed in music production, engineering? Does that ever cross your mind, or is it just like I'm great here? Actually, I couldn't care
No,
less.
I think, I think, my path. Really, I think my path was chosen for me. I
Mm,
don't think. I think I just sort of, went in the direction that I was destined to go. Um, I don't think, honestly, I don't think if I stayed in music, I would be as successful as I am now.
mm. Why do you say that?
Well, music changed, right?
Hmm.
From when I was in it. Like, you know, the digital age came, and now people are able to then start doing stuff not in the big studios, so they could do it at home,
True.
right? And so the studios started closing down. So as a recording engineer, unless you are working with, you know, the bigger artist,
That is a
right?
great point. That is a
The,
great point.
yeah, I mean, music is done. Like, unless you're a top notch guy, with those top notch connections,
Hmm.
um, you hungry, right? Most of those guys, as a matter of fact, almost 90%, I would say, of the people that I meet in this industry, in this film and TV industry, came from music.
Came from music. I was just gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Mm,
ask them. We all play instruments.
right.
They all were musicians.
Right.
But
That's
the
true.
music industry started to shrink.
Mm.
Right?
This is true. Which is that's a great point because like you said, like back then you had to go to the major studios to get
Mm-hmm.
to get a record. Like everyone
Right.
wasn't engineering themselves. Now guys are
Right.
making albums on tour buses. They're
Yeah.
doing it, on the
Right.
go. Like it just you need a mic, you need a pretty solid person engineer, and even like the mixing and the mastering. They're not even really
Mm-mm.
going to the depth of that they used to make the
Yeah.
everything sound excellent.
And the funny thing is, like, especially with the onset of AI,
Right.
and,
Mercy.
you
Mercy.
know, and I'm not in it like on the music side like that, but I'm more into the generative AI
Mhm.
models. But I would imagine if it isn't here yet, that it will be that you could take a song that you like,
Right.
right, and say, I want my song to be similar
Hmm.
in the way that it sounds
Right.
to this one, right? And it'll master it for you. It'll master it for you. So
Crazy.
a lot of people are going to lose a lot of jobs, I think, with the onset of AI.
I mean, even Timberland has an AI artist. I
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. Yeah, he has an
AI
AI art.
artist that is actually gonna be dropping an album. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like there are mad artists out here who are very talented, but we want to create AI. I don't personally like it because I just feel like AI again. There's a way I think we can implement everything to the use. Like
Right.
same way when autotune first came into music, it was not
Mm-hmm.
being used to exaggerate, how you sounded. It was really used to balance out vocals and make it,
Right.
everything flow smoothly. And now, and then, there was a time where autotune just became the wave. And, obviously T Pain got a lot of blame for that. But AI now is just like, I think we could use it in a way that makes things smoother and like make your job a little easier. But having a whole AI entity in and of itself sounds crazy to me. But
Yeah. But I mean, probably from Timbaland's standpoint, it's like he didn't have to pay that AI artist royalty,
exactly, exactly. No,
right?
no record deal. There's no deal for me to.
That's all the money is mine,
Right, right. All the
right?
generation. That's right. All the money he generates from this AI streaming and whatever is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's. I didn't even think about it like that. That's a good point. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about it like that. All right. Well, that that sounds like you are thriving in your industry. I am very glad to have come across um, this conversation because again, there's a lot that even me, like I don't know that happens behind the scenes, especially in sound, because I'll go to a movie theater and especially if you go to IMAX and you're like, wow, this sound is like it's incredible, right?
Right.
But you're not putting into, you're not putting it into your head how much work goes into making it sound like the details that you mentioned.
Right.
You have someone that
Right.
is specifically doing this, someone that is specifically doing that, and you just oversee all of that
Right.
before you put the final touches on it. So
Yeah.
your work is essential to what we like on a day basis.
Well, thank you, because I always like to say this, man. If you try watching a movie with nothing but the dialogue, you couldn't watch it.
Wow.
You know,
Never thought about that.
but see, I think a lot of people don't really they experience it,
Mm-hmm.
but like you said, they're not really paying attention for the most part to
Mm-hmm.
what it is, unless it's really an intense moment where
Mm-hmm.
there's really sound effects that are really out front, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for most part, like we said before, like even from the birds that are chirping in the trees,
Yeah.
if you take everything out, it would be unwatchable. Unwatchable. So to me, at a minimum, sound is 50% of the movie
Oh,
experience,
absolutely.
right? At a
Absolutely.
minimum, right?
Especially in film, because,
Right.
transitions to someone's driving, it's not, there is some kind of sound, whether it's birds or
Mhm.
music or, there is
Yeah,
some kind of
yeah.
sound, and you guys are, instrumental in doing that. So I appreciate you for taking the time to explain, to educate me. And I'm glad that I'll now be able to share, your experience and your work with others. And hopefully we can get Ryan Coogler on the line.
That'd
Hopefully
be
we
great.
can get Peel and Keel, Peel and
Yeah.
Keel on the line,
Mhm.
so you can get that experience that you want with those two.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think that'd be great. So let's make that happen.
Let's
Let's
do
put
it.
that and make it happen. I expect a call from him next week.
No doubt. We're gonna listen when we post these clips. We're gonna tag them. We're gonna DM them. We're gonna do what it do. We're gonna
Right
do
on.
what it do so that can happen for you. Because why not? If not,
Right.
and what I do appreciate about those guys is that they do work with, you know, a lot of black talents. Like
Yeah,
Peel and Kill,
absolutely.
that's like a staple for him, putting on
Mhm.
black talents. And same with Ryan Coogler. He wants to work with black talents that are capable because for
Right.
him, I
So,
knew he had like his own journey that motivates him. So why not, pay
yeah,
it forward by working with someone else that resembles you and that is capable of doing the work. It's all about the
right.
capabilities. You're not
I mean,
giving a handout.
you gotta have the talent, right? You
Right.
gotta have the. But all things being equal, you got the talent. Why can't you get an opportunity,
Right.
right?
Right. Nepotism, like is what they
Because
call it.
here's the funny thing, right? And I won't keep you, but
Yeah.
it's like you know, a lot of shows, a lot of our shows that are
Hmm.
African American themed shows, right? Especially in the post side. I'm not so sure about the production side, but in the
Right.
post side, the people that are working on those are not. It's not us.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Uh, and so, why can't we? It's hard to even get opportunities to work on projects that you know that utilize actors and producers that are African American. I'm a African American owned company, and yes, I've done a lot of stuff for BET.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But it kind of goes both ways too, because we get pigeonholed sometimes to the point that people think because I'm African American, I can only do African American
BT
content.
kind of work. Right. Mm.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So it's a double-edged sword,
Right.
right? With that, right?
That's good. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah, because again, I hear it a lot with like the they call it the Tyler Perry movies, where they'll say, this guy belongs in a Tyler Perry movie. It's like, well, that's the opportunity he's gotten. That doesn't mean that he wouldn't be able to be fantastic
And
in
something else.
Tarantino movie or something
Right,
else. So that is
right,
a double edged sword. You want the opportunity, but you don't want to get boxed in to just
right,
that. Um,
right,
okay, that's a good point that I think we definitely have to take into account when we consume these things because, again, the average person is not thinking in these details, in these specific nuances of how hard it is and how hard it
right,
is to even just get an opportunity, nonetheless.
right.
So thank you Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate you for your time. If there anything you want to plug, I'm gonna give you the floor, and we'll go from there.
No, well, I'll just say, if you want to learn more about my company, go to www.artistryandsound.com. That'll show you the projects that we work on. You'll get an inside view of my studio and my facilities, and learn a little bit more about what we do here.
Awesome. I would love, and I'll connect with Crystal about this. I would love to come out there and kind of like see, check out the spot. Maybe we could do a featured spotlight on the things, so we can give people like an actual visual, in-depth look of how Ken Johnson goes about making our movies and our shows sound fantastic.
That would be great, man. You have an open invitation.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you for having me.
No doubt.